Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Vilma Fernandez dito sa ating Pilipinyana Television Magazine.
Welcome to our show for this month. I'm Bettina Navarro. We're bringing you this month the last part of the evolution of the Philippine houses. We've shown you the patch hut, the stone house, and the westernized homes of the Philippines. If you missed them, call in and order for your copies of the tapes from the months of August, September, and October.
At para naman sa ating traveler portion, ibibigay namin sa inyo ang isang exclusive interview ng Systems Operation ng National Power Corporation sa Iligan City.
And the man with the golden voice came back and performed for a second time, Jumidas Maturan. Later on, we will be able to show you his last concert for our entertainment.
Last November 7, the Filipino Performing Arts had the presentation of Bebot at the Filipino Community Center. The last sequel of a three-part drama and musical extravaganza is expected to have a presentation in the Christmas holidays. Last November 20, our very own Bettina Navarro emceed the second annual pageant for Mr. and Miss Asian Look Model Search. Some footage will be shown next month. Okay. Pilipinyana Television was one of the invited participants in the first Filipino Media Conference of North America. This special event was held in the LA Sports Arena in Los Angeles last November 21st. His Excellency Philippine President Fidel V. Ramos was the special guest speaker for that particular event.
Filipino American media are our most important vehicle for establishing unity, solidarity, and teamwork within our communities here in the United States. And I wanted to use my visit to America as a means to remind all of our compatriots here that if there is still relying on the tingi mentality, that they are missing a great many good things. I am not talking here about unanimity and a shared vision and a commitment to action, such as the political empowerment of the king. One has influence or stature or size. And so instead of the Filipino American retreating into his own little neighborhood association, let him, brother, strive for a place in the sun and a voice in American society. After all of you have the numbers, you have the education, and you have the necessary talents with which to compete effectively against others.
Our feature story this month is the last of the four-part series of the evolution of the Philippine houses. Just order a copy and you could add this to your video library. We have Mila Salog for the story.
The fourth part of the evolution of the Philippine houses is known as the international style. The structure of the homes changed to impersonate the way houses were designed and built in other countries. As always, the Filipinos adapted the warm family atmosphere to these changes.
After the ruins of war, houses were built for the sake of speed and quantity. As in this modern-day subdivision, the structures were mass-produced. They ignored the building traditions of the past and followed the Bauhaus principles of design, which later evolved into the international style. Form had to follow function. Historical and cultural influences were considered irrelevant. In the mid-60s, Western architects rebelled against the international style and resurrected the legacy of the past. Unfortunately, Filipino builders did not see this as an opportunity to recreate the native ancestral houses. Instead, they copied the Western revivalist designs. Roman villas, Victoria mansions, and Swiss chalets became the vogue, and still are in many first-class neighborhoods. In the early 70s, growing nationalist sentiments prodded young builders to question the premises of their craft. Student architects saw the need to think and build Filipino. Young architects planning the homes of the future have found inspiration in the legacy of the past. In remote ethnic villages, they have found houses that have evolved in isolation through the centuries, untouched by foreign cultures. In the far south, descendants of the first Muslim traders still live in coastal huts or in magnificent hardwood cottages carved with brilliant ochre designs. Such homes reaffirm the Filipinos' affinity with Indonesians, Malaysians, and other kindred peoples of Southeast Asia. In the mountains of the north, century-old tribal huts hug the slopes and valleys. Like the kubo, they are small, but their domain extends to those handmade terraces of rice that slope upwards to the sky. This native soul manages to find expression in the westernized houses of the city. In the suburbs of Manila, a house or apartment is somehow never complete without a garden. Nature's bounty must be represented, even if by just a few potted plants. The interiors of the modern Filipino home are cozy rather than impersonal, full of open, flowing spaces that encourage interaction rather than seclusion, fitted with wide windows and balconies that open out to the neighbors and welcome the fresh air and light. The Filipino prefers texture, transparency, playfulness, and lightness of design. These are the reflections of his own temperament. Even in the city, it is not unusual to find houses clustered together in a family compound. This arrangement reflects the Filipino's clannishness and devotion to his own. This house is built and owned by Francisco Mañosa. He belongs to a new breed of architects that believe in reviving traditional styles and the use of homegrown materials. His roof is made from shingles of wood that recall the Bahay Kubo. The upward slant and the spike or finial are inspired by the Bahay na Bato. Like the old houses, the structure is propped on corner posts. Most of its fixtures are made of natural materials: wood, seashells, coconut husks, abaca fibers. The decor is partly Spanish colonial. As in the Kubo, the ceiling is high and slanted for better ventilation. The rooms flow into one another and open out to the garden, letting in plenty of air and light. The living room is a multi-purpose space that serves as a music room, playroom, dining room, and lounging area. Even the kitchen sink recalls the batalan of the old houses. The story of the Philippine house does not end here, for it will continue to evolve and accumulate richer, more varied definition of its architectural style. To the Filipino, the rediscovery of his Asian roots and his inherent love of nature and harmony will always have a profound influence on his home.
Para sa ating travelogue portion, pupunta tayo sa Iligan City sa Mindanao. Mapapanood natin ang exclusive interview ng ating production staff member, Betsy Pajo, kay Engineer Eugene Bicar, Systems Operation Department Manager ng National Power Corporation sa Mindanao. Naririto si Gina.
In Mindanao, the name Iligan City, which is the capital of Plano del Norte, means Fortress of Defense. built on the coastal plain. This beautiful city is known as the City of Waterfalls. It has 20 waterfalls to boost the power plant.
Now, Engineer Vicar, I would just like to ask a few questions regarding this operation of the Maria Cristina Falls now. So, Maria Cristina Falls being one of the tourist attractions in the city of Iligan, how do you find Maria Cristina Falls getting dried up now? Or how do you deal with the tourists who comes around to have a full view of the falls?
It is very lamentable for us that the falls was not having its full grandeur right now. But regional management recently plans to open the falls on a scheduled basis. It means that we have to make the viewing of the falls probably 1 hour or 2 hours every Sunday for public viewing.
Available to the public.
Yes, and tourists and all other people around.
That's good, that's good. So meaning some tourist groups who would come around can see the full view of the Maria Falls. Oh, that's good. Now, how many % of the hydropower has generated for the entire Mindanao, and what other sources of electricity is there available?
Yeah. Right now, throughout the Philippines, Mindanao is the cheapest if you talk of rates. So we are, I think, only selling to the customers peso and 20 centavos per kilowatt hour. Very much cheaper than in the Visayas and in Luzon.
Oh, great.
Because of these hydro potentials. But probably in the next 10 years, if demand will rise, and then we cannot construct more hydros, probably the mix, which means that the share of the hydro and the non-hydro will be 50-50 if the demand will rise.
So this will really be a very good thing for the government.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Now, National Power Corporation being one of the government-owned corporation, right?
Yes.
What other plans and programs does our new government have?
There's a plan to privatize National Power Corporation. In fact, we started by giving some projects to the private power plants through the BOT scheme and the BTO scheme, which means the Build, Operate, Transfer scheme. It means that they will build the plant, they will construct it themselves, they will operate it for a certain period, say 10 to 15 years. After that, they will turn the plant over to National Power Corporation after 15 years. That's one way of at least giving incentives to the private
sector.
Yes.
I see. So that is what the government is trying to do. This is a big and great project right now.
Yeah.
Now, my last question I think will be this. Are there security problems affecting the generated hydroelectric stations presently?
So far, there's none. But, you know, problems arises if we construct new plants.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Engineer Vicar, for giving us a chance. So this is it. Thank you very much.